When does the day really begin from a biblical perspective? Is it at midnight, at sunrise, or at sunset? And when exactly does the week begin? On Monday, Saturday, or Sunday? Finally, when does the month and the year really begin from a biblical perspective? There are so many calendars today. We have the Roman calendar, the Chinese calendar, the Islamic calendar, the Hebrew calendar, and many others. And since each one is different from all the others, there's so much confusion about this topic. So which among them is correct? In this episode, I will share with you the correct biblical reckoning of time, which humans lost when they rejected God in their lives. Let's discuss. Our God, Yahweh Elohim, is the author and creator of time. Therefore, He is the only authority on the calendar. But we human beings, pagan cultures in particular, have usurped that authority, leading to the present-day calendar confusion in this world. Therefore, let us understand God's mind on this matter of time, which He alone created. In the beginning of your Bible, Genesis, God tells us how to reckon time correctly. Notice Genesis 1:14 and 16. Then God said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of the heavens to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and seasons." The Hebrew word there is moed, God's divine appointments, and for days and years. Then God made two great lights, the greater light, the sun, to rule the day, and the lesser light, the moon, to rule the night. He made the stars also. Now, let's look at how the Bible defines the basic units of time: the day, the week, the month, and the year. First, the day. A day as we know it from the Roman calendar reckoning of time is a 24-hour period from midnight to midnight. But a day is defined by God as a 24-hour period starting and ending at sunset or evening. Astronomically, this corresponds to one rotation of the earth around its axis. Genesis 1 verse 5 says, "God called the light day, and the darkness He called night. So the evening and the morning were the first day." Notice the order. Evening precedes morning in a 24-hour day. This evening preceding a morning format is consistently repeated in verses 8, 13, 19, 23, and 31, showing us that the true beginning of a biblical day is at sunset the evening before. Here are three further proofs. Number 1, Exodus 12:18. "In the first month, on the 14th day of the month at evening, you shall eat unleavened bread until the 21st day of the month at evening." Leviticus 23 verse 32. "It shall be to you a Sabbath of solemn rest, and you shall afflict your souls on the 9th day of the month at evening. From evening to evening you shall celebrate your Sabbath." And Mark 1:32. "At evening, when the sun had set, they brought to Him all who were sick and those who were demon-possessed." Number 2, the week. The week is a 7-day period from Sunday, the first day, to Saturday, the 7th day, Sabbath. However, beware, because a number of calendars are now incorrectly starting on a Monday and ending on a Sunday, following the European International Standards Organization, the ISO 8601. Also in the Middle East, the first day of the week is Saturday and the 7th day is Friday. But how does God, the very author of time, define a week? When does the week really begin? A week is defined by God as an unbroken cycle of 7 days starting at creation from the first day of the week, now called Sunday, to the 7th day of the week called Sabbath, now called Saturday. Since days begin at sunset, the true biblical Sabbath starts at sunset on the 6th day, now called Friday, and ends at sunset on the 7th day, now called Saturday. There is no astronomical phenomenon that explains the week. It is revealed by God. In Genesis chapter 2, verse 2 to 3, "And on the seventh day, God ended his work which he had done, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had done. Then God blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because in it he rested from all his work which God had created and made." Since God does not get tired, he obviously set the example for us on how we humans are to keep the Sabbath holy. Number 3, the month. What is a month? Some of you remember the nursery rhyme, the days of the month. 30 days have September, April, June, and November. All the rest have 31, except February alone, which only has but 28 days clear, and 29 in each leap year. So a month today can have 28 to 31 days. But how does the Bible define a month? A month is a period of time from one new moon to another. The word month is actually derived from the word for moon. The old month ends and a new month begins at sunset after the astronomical new moon or conjunction. Conjunction means the alignment of the earth, the moon, and the sun in that order, producing a dark new moon as viewed from the earth. Astronomically, a month corresponds roughly to one revolution of the moon around the earth and exactly one complete cycle of moon phases from one new moon to the next. The following passage in Isaiah defines both weekly and monthly cycles. Notice Isaiah 66 verse 23. "And it shall come to pass that from one new moon to another, and from one Sabbath to another, all flesh shall come to worship before me, says the Lord," or Yahweh. Today, our months wrongly begin on any phase of the moon. But a true biblical month always begins on a new moon. And the length of a biblical month usually alternates between 29 and 30 days, since the average number of days from one new moon to the next is approximately 29.5 days. Number 4, year. The Roman calendar in popular use today is the Gregorian calendar, which was introduced in 1582. Our years begin on January 1, in the dead of winter. This is clearly a mistake. A year in God's sacred calendar starts and ends on the new moon on or after the spring or vernal equinox. Equinox is a Latin word which literally means equal night. More recently, the word equilux has also been used, which literally means equal light, but which means almost the same thing, except with a slight variation in time as one gets into the higher latitudes. The spring or vernal equinox is that time of the year, usually March 20 in the Western Hemisphere, when the length of days and nights are approximately equal. This is the heavenly sign or marker that the winter season is now over and spring has officially begun. Astronomically, this corresponds to one revolution of the earth around the sun, the starting and ending point being the spring or vernal equinox. The first full month after the spring equinox was named by God as Abib or Aviv, which literally means green ears, when most vegetation begins to sprout new leaves. After the Babylonian captivity, the Jews began to use the name Nisan to also represent Abib. Doesn't it make more sense that life should begin in spring rather than in the dead of winter? There are two scriptural passages which bears on this topic. Notice Exodus 13 verse 4. "On this day you are going out in the month Abib," which begins in late March to April. Exodus chapter 12 verse 2. "This month, Abib, shall be your beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year to you." God plainly says that Abib or Nisan is the first month, not January or any month that we like. Now, do we have historical proof that this time reckoning is correct? We do. We know that the Jews were taken captive to Babylon in the 6th century BC. The prophet Daniel and his friends became very influential over the wise men of Babylon and later even Persia. The prophet Daniel had been given by God special wisdom and revelation on the calendar. Today, the Babylonian and the Persian calendars are known to be one of the most accurate in existence. We can examine the Babylonian calendar from 499 BC onward as preserved and available on their ancient clay tablets, as found in the British Museum and in Eastern Europe. Although the Babylonian calendar was not always perfectly identical to the Hebrew calendar, from 499 BCE onward, it did show that it followed the calendar prescription based on Genesis 1:14 as used by the Aaronic priests. After Aaron, the special astronomical knowledge and wisdom was continued by the priest Zadok and his descendants, especially appointed by God in Ezekiel 44, verse 15, 16, and 24, because they alone remained faithful. Please note that the first month began in the spring, meaning they did not allow the first day of the first month to come before the vernal equinox. In fact, modern astronomy software, when comparing Babylonian eclipse dates in their history, can confirm that the Babylonian calendar from 499 BCE onward never began years until the first visible new moon on or after the spring equinox. Our new moon today is known as the conjunction or astronomical new moon. Since that kind of moon is dark and invisible, it was the visible first crescent, the new moon they looked for, right after sunset on the first day of the month, confirming that the month had already begun. You will notice that the motions of the earth, the sun, and the moon, while incredibly accurate, are not 100% perfect. The Bible indicates that we once had a perfect calendar before sin entered the world. It had a year of exactly 360 days. Each of the 12 months had exactly 30 days, and each day had exactly 24 hours. Our calendar today is no longer perfect. Instead of 24 hours, we now have 23 hours, 56 minutes, and 4 seconds. That's how long it takes for the Earth to rotate around its axis. Our month, instead of 30 days, takes 27.3 days to complete one orbit around the Earth, but 29.5 days to complete one cycle of phases from new moon to new moon. The moon spends the extra 2.2 days catching up because the Earth travels about 45 million miles around the sun during the time that the moon completes one orbit around the Earth. Finally, the Earth goes around the sun not in exactly 360 days, but it takes 365 days, 5 hours, 59 minutes, and 16 seconds. Why is this so? It started when Joshua fought in defense of the Gibeonites and asked God to stop the sun and the moon on their journey across the sky, as we read in Joshua 10:12-13. Also, this astronomical disturbance was further compounded during the time of King Hezekiah, when God turned the sundial back 10 degrees, as we read in Isaiah 38, verse 8. The Bible shows that when Christ returns, He will restore all things, including a perfect calendar for the world. So, in summary, what is the correct calendar according to God's true biblical reckoning of time? Number 1, the day begins and ends at sunset, not at midnight. Number 2, the week begins and ends at sunset on Saturday, which is already the start of Sunday. Number 3, the month begins and ends on the day after the astronomical new moon or the conjunction. Number 4, the year begins and ends on the day after the first astronomical new moon on or after the spring or the vernal equinox, which is March 20 in our generation. I hope you can see now how God is the author of time and that He alone is the authority on the calendar. Why is this important? In a future video, we will discuss God's 7 annual holy days. For those who firmly believe in keeping God's ordained holy days, rather than pagan holidays such as Halloween, Valentine's Day, and Christmas, it is absolutely necessary to know precisely when these days occur. For those who are convicted in obeying Yahweh Elohim, we can offer you a copy of the sacred calendar so you can know precisely when to observe these festivals and holy days. Knowing this truth, you are now left with a choice: to follow the calendars of men or the calendar of God as confirmed by the signs in the heavens. I hope you will make the right choice. Since this is a technical subject, please feel free to review this video as may be necessary. Likewise, feel free to read the 4 related articles in our BiblicalTruths.com website. Until next time, this is Daniel MacRae of BiblicalTruths.tv, reminding you to always be growing, to always be giving, and to always be grateful.